it up to tech decadence, TECH, then decadence. And we are watching, ladies and gentlemen, the willful yielding to slaughter by not only the American public, but the global population. We know that messenger RNA vaccines have, quote, unknown components. It's my contention, and I've been saying this, and I'll stand by this, that the DNA extracted from the giants that are in stasis, suspended animation, and live giants, the bottom line is that it's incorporated with the child's sacrificial blood and the embryonic parts of human beings. So in Planned Parenthood and all of the abortion sacrificial centers, in my opinion, what they're doing, Doug, is killing the next generations of human beings. They're either going to basically nuke us, and we'll talk about that. We talk about the suitcase nukes, where they're going to poison us through a vaccine. They're going to add a secondary component to the chemtrails. They're going to basically starve us. They're going to kill a lot of us. And the end of this show, we'll go to the end at the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, the country you know is dead. The country you have known will never come back. There's no one coming to your help except Jesus. These are the very end times the Lord has warned and warned and warned about. Donald Trump, like him, hate him, at least we had a time out, a period of basically we could have sought the Lord. We could have done a lot of things. There is no law in the land. The Supreme Court has basically executed the whole rule of law, in my opinion. We're watching right now every single attack upon humanity that can be done. Listen, when I wrote Genetic Armageddon, Today's Technology, Tomorrow's Monsters, that had to be at least 15 or 20 years ago. Okay, well, it had to be longer than that. Right around 15 to 20 years. And people didn't understand what was in that book. Then I replaced it with Terminated. The end of man is here. Unless someone understands the root of singularity, transhumanism, they will not understand the evil fruit that's already in playing out before everybody's eyes. And that's why we talked about today. And read the title for today's show, and I'll take each word.
Segregate, isolate.
I'm sorry. Say it again, because I couldn't hear it. It cut out.
Segregate, isolate, destroy.
Segregation, 6 feet apart. Segregation, quarantine, isolation, the breaking down of human communication, the breaking down of human interaction, the virtual world, Zoom, Skype, whatever, obviously taking the place of touch, feel, sense, love, smiles. What's in a smile? A smile is an amazing thing. Unfortunately, a lot of us, the smiles have been wiped off our faces, and I would be in that realm unless I'm trying to basically, like you said, Doug, open something up with a little bit of humor, because it's going to get really heavy. I do not believe the 90%, maybe 95% of Christians understand that you have already been targeted for destruction, first and foremost by the devil, but mostly important, 125 million people are targeted for annihilation. I'll go right to the bottom line. You know I love to overuse that statement. But what do we people, what do all the people, I was going to say the people of the United States expect? What do I expect? I expect that the demon rats and the Republican whores, okay, there's another word I would use for them, but I'll just leave it sanitary, that basically they have colluded, they have polluted, they have destroyed, and they are ready to nuke us, cut our heads off, poison us, basically imprison us. By the way, you go into the FEMA camps, you're not coming out. There's a reason there's 256,000 guillotines. I even understand it's up by 30,000 now. There's no way I could know that unless somebody who's high enough with security clearance told me that. But by the way, I was told that in almost 15 years ago now by the whole story of, I told it at Branson about the 4-star general that took me under his wing in special operations. The point is that, Doug, we are watching, and you and I talked yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, if you heard Patrick Leahy, who, by the way, I thought that guy was dead and gone, well, they must have pulled something and pulled him up out of wherever he was, because he's talking about they will not defortify Washington, D.C. until the First Amendment is done and the Second Amendment, until they're destroyed. Why does the government that's represented by Democrats and Republican traitors right now, with exceptions, few in the Senate, few in Congress, why would they have to fortify themselves at the same time calling for the death of 125 million people? Doug, you're a private investigator. You start to put different facts over here, pull it in front of you, pull it down, and those facts can only come to one conclusion. They will do anything to destroy your ability, my ability, our ability to defend ourselves. And again, everybody is saying, when is it time to go? My answer to that, time to go. That means they're coming to kill you, and you go wherever the Lord shows you to go, but you've got to understand that when they say they're calling in all guns, they're going to do executive orders stuff, that's your go signal. And a lot of people ask, listen, self-defense is biblical. A lot of people say, I'm just going to be martyred. That's your choice. If people just, going to be martyred, they're going to be martyred. But it's time for all gun owners. It's time for all Second Amendment people. It's time for all who love free speech to stand up, to speak out. And I want to say something. When you saw President Trump's, all of the people that were for him, look at what's happened after the Democrats stole the election. I would say this: resistance to the total takeover, takedown, and the end of America, nothing outside of the organizations that may be speaking out. But again, Doug, at the end of the day, there's nothing to stop them. There's no rule of law. There's no federal law enforcement. There's no anybody who will bring charges. And I've talked to attorneys. You and I have talked to a lot of attorneys over the last years. And I talked to one of the most famous constitutional scholar attorneys that basically has practiced before the Supreme Court. By the way, it's not Sidney Powell, it's a male. And basically he said, Steve, we're watching the destruction of the rule of law. In essence, he was telling me, because I said to him, I said, I won't even use his first name. I said, can't you go into the Hague? Can't you go, in essence, into the Geneva War Crimes Protocol? There are protocols for filing claims. And he said, Steve, there's nobody to enforce it. They're all in on it. So, Doug, this is what people have got to understand. A supernatural force, call him Lucifer, his real name, Satan means adversary, has got the world leaders to bow down to him and to follow through with his depopulation agenda. You can have all the money in the world. And so I just wanted, that's my introduction. Go ahead.
Well,
sir.
I think you can take that literally. I mean, when the world leaders bowing down to Lucifer, I think that's a literal statement, as well as, figuratively, but literally they are. And I especially like on stevequayle.com, folks, if you go to stevequayle.com, on the link headline section, the article by Dave Hodges, America is on the Edge of Collapse, the time to prepare is ending, Robert Griswold and Dave Hodges. If you read that article and listen to the concurrent interview, you're going to really get a lot out of it. So thank you for that. Dave Hodges, thank you. Robert Griswold, thank you. And Steve Quayle, thank you for that, because we, the time for prepping is pretty much gone. And America, as you say, is pretty much gone. There it is right there. Again, Dave Hodges from today, Thursday, February 25th, 2021. Steve, thanks. Go ahead, sir.
Well, one of the people to criticize that statement that I made and that others have made will say it's never too late to prep. It is when there's nothing to buy. It is when there's no food that you can get. It is when you can't get this, that, or the other thing. And America, what once the greatest nation in the world, and I say this, Woe, and I'm just quoting scripture, woe unto the nation that forgets God. There's no fear of God in the land, because if there were, we wouldn't put up with the evil. We still look to a man to deliver us. People still say, well, if he can just get enough people in Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, Einstein's famous statement is when he defined, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. The question is, what percentage of the military still stands for the Constitution, the Bill of Rights? I didn't hear much, now Doug, correct me, I didn't hear much of people protesting that here you have a man saying the Bill of Rights are outdated. Well, they certainly know the Constitution's outdated, quoting Henry Kissinger. The illegal we do right away. The unconstitutional takes time. They've whittled away at the next generation. They've killed them or they've indoctrinated them. Just like you made the statement, what happens when you take school kids to Washington, D.C. and they see Fortress America? Most people, except for those who are talking about the future, never saw, the degree of paranoia that's in the Capitol building. And here's the thing I want to share, ladies and gentlemen. Every single accusation against Trump supporters for hate, for basically even the whole situation, the fiasco in Washington, D.C., which was a setup. It was a setup. Notice this. It's only, even to the point now, Doug, congressmen and senators who were involved in anything talking about it are now being investigated by the FBI. Let me tell you guys what the bottom line is on that. They are trying to bring charges against any freedom-loving congressman, senator, male or female, to get them out of the Senate. That's how they want total control. Doesn't that make sense, Doug?
100%, Steve. 100%. And it's now that okay. In tandem with that, John Solomon came out. I think it was yesterday or today, and said, the Peter Navarro, who's very outspoken, pro constitutional, pro exposing all of the fraud that's going on in Washington. John Solomon just came out and said, the FBI back in 2016 was investigating Peter Navarro for his connections to Russia, but it was all set up through the deep state, Hillary Clinton, that team. So the reason I brought that into play is, in addition to today, where they're going after the representatives and people inside government that had anything to do with the January 6th or even the rally. They're going after them, but it's been building to this point over the last 5-6 years in ways that we can't even imagine. But all that's being suppressed by the media. But yes, sir, go ahead. I don't want to take any time away from you. And Steve, I want to apologize. I didn't mean to take so much time. I just wanted to set the stage a little bit for today and kind of add a little bit of levity at the beginning, because this is such a deep
glad
subject.
You did,
man.
Doug. I mean, seriously, I'm so glad you did. Plus, I want to remind you, this is your show. Blessings to you for giving me a platform. And I would like to think that, and somebody says, you talk too fast. I said, I'm burst transmitting enough information. I hope people see the lateness of the hour. And I want to talk about something too. If people don't understand how the entire cryptocurrency, digital currency, the whole, if you will, Coinbase, which handles transactions of, a lot of money people are putting into, for instance, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, some of the lesser coins, because they think that that's going to be the new economy. Well, here's the deal. They are going to take it that way, but at some point, if you haven't taken the vaccine, you can't access your account. If you haven't taken the vaccine, you won't have a bank account at some point. Remember this statement, the most famous statement I know about forced vaccination was simply this: we won't force you to take it, but we will coerce you. You won't be able to have a job. You won't be able to basically get any medical treatment. If you're on a federal benefits program, boy, I can't talk today, Medicare, Medicaid, anything. And it even will go down at some point to Social Security. every single thing. And ladies and gentlemen, we sat by and we did